starts. All right, we're live. So, hi, good morning. This is Garage Geek, and I'm here with Scott at NoSolution. Morning, Scott.
Morning.
How you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. It's afternoon for me, so I've been up for a while.
That's true. So I want to show Pie Face came on in the middle of the night and left us a very nice comment. I might be asleep by then, but if not, I'm sure Scott will put me to sleep.
I'm sure I will.
And I responded to him, I might put you to sleep as well. I'm woefully unprepared. We'll talk about that later. And then Sleepy Reader put in, excuse me, my throat. Infinite pets in the infinite garage. That is true. But right now, I had 3 pets leave, and I have my 2. So hopefully, and I closed the door. So hopefully, we won't be too much disturbed.
They don't freak out when you close the door.
No, they're used to me just talking randomly into like a square, and they're used to it, and they just calm down now.
Okay.
So I want to talk a little bit about how we met, because I can't remember. Like, I know you sent me a package, and it was a cool package with all these CDs in it, and I'm still listening to them, and I have the Overkill one actually in the holder, and it's the one I'm listening to. I really like it, actually.
Which one was that? Years of Decay?
It's got a circle on it, and then inside, I told you, like, they had on the front they had redone art.
Okay.
And then I could grab it for you. I just hate
Horoscope, I think, is that one.
I hate standing up in front of the thing because everyone can see my belly. There you go. It's that one.
Yep. Okay.
And I actually really like this one. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I actually haven't listened to all of them. I'm kind of like that. I take my time with CDs, so I've only listened to like 4 of them so far, but I will keep going through them like that. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. But I don't remember how we actually started talking to each other.
I don't really either. I think just through comments. I don't remember if I commented on your video first or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I remember there was a whole kerfluffle where we were trying to get each other's email address, and eBay wouldn't let us. Or not eBay. YouTube wouldn't let us.
Yeah. It's strange. So now the last video I had, I just typed it in. And I was wondering if the algorithm would see it and like delete my video. Because you never know, right? If they're against you, sharing email addresses, and they can stop your videos for content because they see what's in the video, right?
Right.
So they could see that on the screen and possibly block the video. So I was kind of worried about that. But it went through. It was fine.
Yeah, I got an age restriction on my last video for pretending to read a Playboy, just showing the cover of it. So I don't know what's going on.
That was really strange because, as I commented, your thumbnails are really, really racy. And in fact, you actually had to take down one.
Yeah.
Thumbnail, right? Because I think you were showing some derriere. Is that what it was?
I mean, kind of. It wasn't like full on, but I guess it was enough.
Yeah. So Mark Morris he likes you for his thumbnails. That just tells us a lot about Mark. Actually,
Mark, you're a gentleman, and you appreciate beautiful ladies. I thank you.
Yeah, writhing around, beautiful young ladies writhing. Oh my gosh! So before we started this stream, we were talking about. Well, first of all, we're here for this book, Infinite Jest, which we will get to. But we were talking about whatnot, and we decided that we wanted to share our common story. So, Scott, go ahead and just give a little bit of background about what you've been doing on whatnot.
Well, first of all, it's all your fault for talking about it because I didn't even know what it was. So thanks for that.
That's so true.
I went on there a couple times, and I was looking for music-related things, and there wasn't much. A lot of like overpriced vinyl and stuff like that, and then I don't know. I just stumbled across the guy selling Playboys, and I used to have a collection of Playboys as a teenager that ended up being stolen, and I'm in that phase of my life where I'm trying to rebuy my childhood, and I was like, I would like to get some of those back. So I go in, I'm looking, and oh, there's one I want that pops up, $3. and I won the auction, and then you got to pay shipping and whatever. And well, then once you paid shipping, then the shipping's free. So now I can just buy whatever I want, and I did. And I was a little drunk, so there's that. And before I knew it, I'd spent over $100, and I felt sick. And then I stayed off it for like a week, and then went back on, and then I started buying. I wouldn't buy $100, but I spent $30 here or $40 there, not thinking that all those adding up was more than the big purchase that made me stop.
Yep.
And I just got my credit card bill today, and I was not happy with what I saw. So it's kind of that. Hopefully, that's a wake up call to knock it off.
Yeah, I had the same experience. So I was just going on buying comics, a lot of them, because they were so cheap, and you would get great deals. Now I found that since it's becoming more and more difficult because people catch on. There are certain tricks to whatnot for you to be able to score, but in order for you to do that, you have to constantly be on there scrolling, looking for certain rooms, and you start to learn the tricks, right? But I did the same thing. I like ran my credit card bill up, and when I got it, I was shocked at how much it is. And I was telling you, everybody out there, I live paycheck to paycheck because I'm really bad with finances, but I also have a huge mortgage. My mortgage is like 60% of my paycheck. It's
Oh
really
wow!
high. Yes, it's really high. In Los Angeles, the home prices are very expensive. So for me to do that was, bad. And I even had to borrow money from someone that month to meet all of the credit card bill. I think I my credit card bill that month was like 5,000 something. And I mean, that was way more than I could afford. And it was all because of whatnot. And so I actually stopped. I went cold turkey for a few weeks, and then I went back in. I'm like, oh, I'll just buy one. And then, I'm pretty good. I've been doing it like 2 or 3 times a month, which is good. But it's as we were saying, I really do think there's an addictive quality to it. If you actually start it, it becomes like a gambling feeling, because you get this huge FOMO. Like when you're in a room and you want to keep going because you think, oh, if I leave right now, he's going to put something up that I really want, and I got to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and look at some of the comments. It's a swindle. It actually isn't. The prices are really good. If you actually have money, which I've seen other people who go on whatnot and they buy a lot, and I think they have the finances for it, and that you actually get really good deals. You do. It's just that you have to manage your money well. If you don't, I think that's the problem. It is hard to find. I searched. Yeah, you know what, Sleepy? I'll send his link later. Your channel really is hard to find.
I know. I put a link in the chat too. Hopefully that'll work.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. I always have to go to my subscribers and then click on you. I can never. Every time I try to type it in.
Rookie mistake. I named my channel without looking to see if anyone else had that name, and there were like 10 other ones at least. So.
And you know what? And there's a lot of garage geeks too. So I'm not very like individual or whatever. That's a shame. I just subscribed to your channel this morning. Thanks for commenting on my Ramones video. Okay, so Mark's in. GG linked you to his last vid, Mark. Enjoying your videos. Okay. Oh, did you see the one where you put on the makeup? We have the same problems, David. Yep.
No, I haven't seen that Mark's video yet with the makeup.
So we are here to discuss this book, Infinite Jest. And I stupidly told Scott that I could get to 150 pages. And this morning I got to page 140. And the reason that was stupid is I was spending more time reading, and I should have been taking notes because I knew we'd have to discuss this. So I'm really underprepared. Like normally I would, since I knew I was going and doing something like this, I would have prepared like sections and questions. So I didn't do that. But I did highlight things, and there's a lot to discuss. I just feel like I'm going to miss a bunch of things since I didn't take notes. The scrolling is my addiction. Sorry, I meant swingle, not swindle.
Oh, Swingle.
Go ahead.
Swingle is a filthy '70s porno mag that I sent to him. So that's what he's talking about.
You never sent me one of those.
Well, are you into Swingle? I can get you another one. I know where to get them.
Believe it or not, I'm into it. I'm really pretty in it, Scott. Are you doing what?
Oh no, he's really pretty in his video, the one with his makeup. I just said I hadn't seen
Oh,
it.
okay. I thought he meant that he's really into whatnot, like deep. So I'm glad it's not that. Yes, Mark, you looked pretty. Don't worry. I try to keep buying to $100 a month. I always go over. Oh yeah, Steve. Yeah, it's so easy. If you set your goal, I always say just think you're going to double it because that's what
Right.
you're going to.
My thing is that first time I really didn't realize what I was spending until it was over, and then you suggested to me to like keep a tally, so I was doing that, but I was keeping a tally like per show, not like a tally of what I was spending over the month, which I just found out because my credit card company kept track of it for me.
Yep. It's the funny thing is when the credit card company actually cuts you off midstream. That happened to me like 3 times.
I've seen that happen. Yeah.
They're like, "Hey, you're spending too much. Cut." And then you have to go and say, "No, it's actually me. I'm spending like a jackass."
Well, I'm sure it looks like a scam. All these like microtransactions going on like within minutes of each other.
Yep. That's what I would think.
Well, how do you want to start? Maybe general thoughts or
So, first off, this book has a reputation, right, as being something impenetrable,
right?
and something that everyone is afraid of. Like even from the people that I've talked to, they're like afraid of this book, and so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to read it. I'm like, I can tackle anything. Forget that. And so I mean, I'm adventurous that way, and if it so my goal in reading this is just to read it, to get through. And I'm going to say that this is not a difficult read. I mean, there's a lot in it, but it's not something that, you get bogged down and you can't get through it. There are some truly hilarious sections. I was laughing out loud so many times. And there were a couple of sections that were like very difficult to get through. I think I wrote to you, I was so sleepy one night, and there was this gigantic paragraph. It was at the bottom of one page and onto the next. And I was so sleepy, and I was just trying to get to the end of the section so I could go to bed. And my eyes kept closing, and I was reading that paragraph, and I must have read it 8 times. And so I finally put the book down. The next morning, I opened it up, and I read the paragraph from the beginning. I was like, of course I couldn't get through this. It is all this like jargon, techno babble. Like it is the worst paragraph ever for a sleepy mind. And so but there are parts like that, but then there are these other parts that are joyous to read. And so I'm really having a great time with this book.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, I think you're the only person I've suggested it to that's gotten even this far. So
yeah, everybody I've talked to, they're like, "Oh, I stop at page 50." And I don't understand. And I think what's going on is, I'll tell you what confuses me. There's a lot of characters.
Right.
And you don't see their connections, and they're just thrown in.
Right.
And I know it's going to be all connected later, but it's like character after character. And each character is introduced in you get like 20 pages, and you're sitting there wondering, well, who is this person? But for me, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm along for the ride, and I'll read it and I'll get through it. And then, I'm 140 pages, and I still just met a new character.
Right. And I didn't remember the character. Well, her pseudonym is Madame Psychosis. I think she's only been mentioned so far in the filmography.
Oh, okay.
She was in some of the films. She's a major character, and we haven't even been introduced to her yet. So, yeah, there's a lot of characters, and some of the connections are kind of hard to figure out, especially at the beginning. One thing I did want to bring up, I remember reading this review of the book that called it screamingly funny. And that was like the gist of the review. And I was just like, did we read the same book? Like, there are hilarious parts in it, but overall, not so much where we are now, but I guess just the overall um, feelings that I get reading the book. It's just very sad. It's a very sad book about depression and addiction and being unable to connect to people. And there are those comedic parts in it, but to just summarize the whole book as screamingly funny, I just was like, I don't understand. I feel like this person didn't read the book.
No. In fact, I was going to say, so far, this one of the standout chapters is we're introduced to this female character. I don't know why she's important, but she's in a facility where they're watching her suicide prevention.
Yeah,
And I don't know, it's like a 10 to 15 page chapter, and it's so well written. I mean, you could actually take little parts from this book and read them as short stories,
right.
and you wouldn't have to read anything else. And I think that chapter is brilliant on its own. And I don't know how it connects. I'm sure, like, because you're right, so many of these people, I think their connections are all their drug addictions so far, right?
Oh yeah. The two main settings of the book are the tennis academy, and then the halfway house that's like at the bottom of the hill below the tennis academy.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those addicts are going to show up there at the halfway house. We really haven't even been introduced much to that house yet, other than being kind of mentioned. And I don't know if you got to where they talked about how it was formed or whatnot. It was just a little section.
I don't remember. I maybe not, because yeah, like I said, I've just been introduced to so many of these random characters, and we're jumping all over the place. Like I hear Boston mentioned a lot. So Boston Commons, the drug addict is in Boston Square. I think they keep mentioning they have like a little box there. That's a very good section too. And the interesting thing about that section is it's written in speech form, right? So everything is misspelled, and it's like
Right.
one giant sentence. And you have to read words a couple of times, sometimes to get what you think is the right word, right? Because it's like
Right.
it's written phonetically, I guess that's what you would say, something like
Yeah,
that.
like superstition is superstation.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And shun, like SHUN, and it's going to be all spelled differently. And
Right.
that's kind of fun, because no matter what section you go into, you're going to have some kind of writing surprise, because
Right.
there's going to be different writing styles and different narrative points of view, and you never know what you're going to run into in the next section. In fact, this morning I was telling you I was at page 140, and I looked at the next section and I saw how dense it was. I'm like, nope, it's shower time.
That's quite enough.
And so I fell 10 pages short, which is sad, because you said that around page 150 is a scene that you really like. So
Yeah, that'll give you something to look forward to.
yeah.
That
And
was my first read through. I was enjoying it, but I was pretty baffled. And then I got to that section, and it's like it doesn't really have anything to do with the story. It's like a 6-page aside, just kind of explaining cultural phenomena, and it was just so nerdy but awesome. It was like, okay, this book is for me. I'm in now. Yeah, so I was curious. Are you having trouble like keeping track of what happens when? Because there are no years, because the years have all been subsidized but for advertisers, so there's no number of years. It's year of the Whopper and year of
Yeah,
Glad.
that's very strange. I noticed that right off. And so yeah, they're called, like, you're going to get alternate sections, and they'll say year of the undergarment, whatever that thing is.
Year of
And then,
Depends Adult Undergarment. Yeah.
yeah, depends undergarment. Isn't that so that you don't like pee yourself or something?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, depends, like a diaper. And then you have the year of the Whopper, and then so I thought to myself, I could look this up and think, oh, when did the Whopper first get introduced? But then I thought, oh, it could be something that happened to a character that was important, like that character ate a Whopper or did something with the Whopper, and then I wouldn't know the year
Oh,
anyway. So I
maybe. Well, I don't want to spoil it.
so
They may not have said this yet. Um,
so it's gonna come.
companies are paying to have their name attached to the year, like sponsoring a football stadium.
Oh, okay. So I did know that the companies are sponsoring the tennis matches, and
Yes.
I thought that that had some connection. I did see that. Okay,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if that was the real thing. Yeah, that actually happens kind of early on. They're mentioning, and there's another scene I think where they're all sitting around in a locker room, bitching, and I
Yeah.
think that comes out in that. Oh, and there's a lot of philosophy in this. It's kind of fun. They all sit around and they contemplate a lot of philosophical issues, which is a lot of fun actually when when they're sitting around debating. Like there was this one section I even marked it, and they go over the fixed versus the growth mindset, and they never use those terms, but that's exactly what it is. So he's using a lot of kind of philosophy and that kind of thing, and that's actually something we teach in school now, because in the section, if I can find it, oh here it is. It's actually on page 116. I just want to know who it is. Oh, they're all the players, and they're talking about how difficult it is to be in these tournaments and how they work them so hard in hopes that some of them will make it later. And they, they're sitting around complaining about, because they're practicing every day for hours and hours and hours, and they're being pushed. And then, they're also talking about how, like only one or two of them actually make it to the majors, and the rest have these horrible lives on these like minor circuits. And they're all complaining, like, why are we doing this to ourselves? And so one of them was talking about how he would get to a plateau, and he would get there before anyone else, and then he would be so happy at that plateau that he would stop, and he would convince himself that that's all it takes. And then the
Right.
other people would start bypassing him, and that still wouldn't wake him up, and he would be like, no, I'm fine, it's just a temporary thing. But that really is what's called the fixed mindset. And we tell that to kids, right? Because they come into the classroom and they say to themselves, they say aloud, I can't read, and they
Hmm.
actually believe it. And we have to like deprogram that, because every kid can learn to read, but they've got this fixed mindset that they can't make it out of that. So anyways, like I said, there's a lot of interesting philosophy that they banter around. um
I
another
think.
Go ahead,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Oh,
No.
I was going to say. I think some of the people that hate the book, I think that's what they don't like. They feel like it's David Foster Wallace showing off and showing how smart he is, and playing around with all these different styles of writing, and they just feel like it's much too pretentious, I guess. Which it is a little pretentious, but I don't. That's not necessarily bad to me.
No, he seems pretty intelligent to me.
Yeah, yeah,
So I mean, think of it this way: this book is 1,000 pages. How can you write 1,000 page book and not do something wrong? I mean,
right.
come on. But think of how much in there that's good and can be praised, right? So Morton's here. Thank you, Morton. Um, Dune and Clockwork Orange was they were difficult to read. You had to go to the glossary all the time. Oh, that's going to bring us to a discussion about the glossary. So notice in my book, I have two bookmarks.
Yep.
And so this is a book, and this is what people complain about the most, is having to flip back and forth. And this is actually why I stopped listening to the book. I actually started listening to it, and I had to stop because the notes at the end was a separate audio file. And so you couldn't do them at the same time. So you would listen to the novel, and then you had another audiobook that was the notes. And so you could go back and forth if you wanted to, right? But you'd have to jump audio files. And so I just thought that's probably not the best way to experience this book. Although listening to it would certainly get me through it faster, right? I found that with audiobooks, you can really force yourself through a book because you can't stop. It just keeps going, right?
Right,
And
right.
with reading, you can just, I'm going to put it down, or I pick up my phone, or and that's another problem that I had. I've been talking with a friend of mine. I used to be such an avid reader, right? And so now this thing is deadly because it's right next to me. And every time I read a page, I'll pick up my phone and check. And every time you do that, it takes you out of the reading experience. And I find that the more I read, the faster I get. So if I read 10 pages, I go at a certain pace, but by the time I get to 20, I'm getting faster and I'm more into it. And every time I pick this thing up, it takes me out of that. And so I'm grappling with that because, I do listen to a lot of books, and just sitting down and physically making myself read the book without distraction is really difficult for me at this point in my life. And I've got to change that because I love reading so much. I don't know. Do you have that problem?
I do. I used to read. I always had a book going, and if I had to wait 10 minutes to punch into work or something, I would just read. But now you got the little scrolly device, and they're just like, oh, I'll just see what's going on YouTube, and so my reading has gone way down just from that. So I'm trying to be more aware of that.
Yeah, I really, really should leave my phone in another room and say, you know what, this next hour and a half is dedicated to reading. And because I'm really bad, like I'll be reading and then I'll be like, oh, I need to check something on Amazon that I forgot to put in my queue.
Mm-hmm.
What? Like this is not a healthy way to read. It's doing a disservice to the author, actually. Yeah, by he didn't use spell check. That's true. Builds muscles, books like that. Yeah, this thing is a honker, and I'm carrying it around from my garage to my house, and I'm just like, I don't like to bend my books. I'm trying to keep it in good shape. When I read it, I don't want the spine to crease, so I'm holding it.
Yeah, I hate that. Oh, yeah.
No, I like my books to be nice. So,
go
ahead.
What was I?
I was going to talk about the notes in the back after your comment.
Oh, just right before you do that, I wanted to say I have a Kindle, but I have found that reading on the Kindle, there's some disconnect there where since it's on a screen, I feel like I don't retain it as well. But for this book, it is nice with the Kindle because you've got like a hyperlink whenever there's a footnote, and you just click that and it takes you right to it, and then you can go right back.
Oh, that's beautiful.
There's no flipping back and forth. Yeah.
That's really perfect. Yeah, a friend, he's actually here. He was here earlier, Claudio. He gave me a Kindle, and I started using it, and I thought it was lovely, but I just couldn't get into it because I like physical things, as you can tell, right? I just like holding it in my hands because I'm old school that way. And the new generation, I get it. They're all about digital, everything, in the cloud, whatever. But for me, it's just like I like to hold that physical object and work my way through it. I like stopping and looking at the cover art or like something about it. It's just cool to hold. I even like how some books, when you hold them and you flip through the pages, they flip nicer than other ones. It's all tactile for me.
Yeah, I've not been able to go digital with music, but with books, other than like a special book now that I know I'm going to read over and over, I do just go with the digital because it doesn't take up any space, and it's usually much cheaper. So
you're smarter than that because I don't have any, and I keep buying physical books. It's smart, and it's smart to go digital with music, to be honest.
I know it is.
Stop all of this album addiction stuff.
Yeah.
And I told myself, listen, I'm going to stop buying music to be a completist. I'm going to buy music only because I like the album cover art. So I'm kind of like doing two things. I'm getting new music that I've never heard before, and I'm getting great art pieces. Well, you know what? I just changed my addiction because I'm finding many great albums, and and now they're so cheap that I'm buying all these like cheap albums that no one's ever going to want when I try to sell them. It's like I'm just changing one addiction for the other. And so going digital would be totally healthy for me. And I've tried it so many times, but I just can't break that cycle. Look at Pie Face's comment. It's pretty funny. Swingle on Kindle. But it would be all in black and white and pixelated. I guess that would be fine.
Based on the one magazine I sent him, that's kind of how the magazine looks. It's so gross. I felt like scrubbing myself with a wire brush after I looked at it.
Yeah, well, I can be pretty gross. Moving on. Yeah, Steve, my old eyes are tired. I listen to audiobooks to help me fall asleep at night. Um, I I love audiobooks, and I during vacation I will listen to them closer to bed to try to get through them. And I find that I do get tired, and that's actually what I don't like because you're missing things. But that is a good way, for some people who need to fall asleep, listening to an audiobook is a great way to do it. I would say I would listen to a nonfiction book that way because I wouldn't really care if I missed some of it and you can just like
Right.
rewind it. Yeah, but for literature where you're like listening, reading for details, it's difficult. Sounds dirty. Okay, Pie Face. That could be related to anything that we've talked about, so I don't know what you're talking about. All right, so let's talk about the notes. So the notes in the back of the book, most of the notes are just straight up notes. Like if he'll use like an abbreviation for a drug, like let's say AZT, and then you go to the back and he'll spell it out and say what kind of drug that's used for. But then there are other notes that are important to the actual story.
Hmm.
And the first one that I really came across was a 5 page, 5 or 6 page list of all the film projects that I think the father did in his lifetime.
Yeah, the father of, I guess, one of our main characters, who is dead when the book starts, made a lot of
Film
experimental films.
Yeah.
So it's a list and description of all the films he made.
And one of the films, in fact, there's 3 or 4 parts, is called Infinite Jest. So they're going to be important because the name of the book is related to them. But I was reading through these and I was cackling because some of the content is hilarious. And you told me, well, you know what? The content of these videos are going to be important because they're going to be steps or stages in this person's life. And we're going to come across them. And he just basically is making kind of autobiographical films. And like I was reading some of the content. I'm seriously, I was cracking up. So I'm going to read a couple of them. A cocaine addicted father leads his son around their desert property, immolating poisonous spiders. Like that's, I mean, that's the film. They're walking around in the desert and they're lighting spiders on fire. Poor spiders. I'm like, and I was like, what kind of film is that? Sadistic penal authorities place a blind convict and a deaf mute convict together in solitary confinement, and the two men attempt to devise ways of communicating with each. I don't know if that sounds funny to you guys, but man, when I was reading this stuff, I was cracking up. I'm like, the description, and I could go on and on. It's 5 pages of this kind of stuff, and I was seriously laughing so hard at every one of these films because they're just so crazy. I mean, I could read a few more. Maybe I'll save some for later, but man, they're so funny. These that 5 page list. And to know, because you said like after you read the book once, when you read through that 5 pages, you make all the connections to things that were going on in the characters' lives.
I'm
So
sure I'm still missing something, but yeah, a lot of them. The first time I read them, I just thought, oh, that's just something goofy, and then no, once you know more, then you go back and read it, and you're like, oh, that refers to this. Okay, so
yeah, so I don't know
it's
if I was
not only is it
laughing.
super long and dense, but it makes more sense once you read it again.
Yeah, but I don't know if I was supposed to be laughing, but I was truly cracking up. Yeah, some like even just like I said there, I'll probably say this a couple times. There, we should make suggestions. Oh, this is what I was going to say. So Moby Dick is a great book, right? But you can, I hear your cat, but
Yep.
you could take huge sections of Moby Dick out and make it such a more pleasant experience to read. That's one of those books where an edited version would be great for most people because he has chapters about like hooks that like 4 or 5 pages about the different kind of hooks that are used for nets. And I mean, like, nobody needs to read all that stuff.
Right, right.
And so I was thinking that in this book you could make an edited version for people who are afraid of it, and just include those really like good chapters and parts, and that could be like a stepping stone to like, oh, I can do this. I'd like to read the full book. I don't know if that's a cheat or not, but yeah, so many people are afraid of this book that maybe they need like a little kind of a gateway into it.
I need to run into the other room a second. The
Oh,
cats
sorry,
are up
go
for some shenanigans.
Okay, sorry, I kept you for a while.
Oh, okay.
So, oh wait, can I think if I click on myself, I can make myself bigger? Oh wait, no, it's like this. Yay. Okay, this is a good time for comments. Anybody who's still there, just give me a comment. And Scott's back. I've asked the peanut gallery for any comments. Oh my gosh, I almost removed you. That's the wrong button to push. All right, do you like this one or do you like this one better?
I don't care. Whatever you like.
All right, what happened to your cats?
I just heard, I heard thumping around in there like they were fighting, but then one of them came in here and there's only two. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? But I don't know. There's some weird sound. It must be from outside because the other one was on the couch staring at me like, yeah, what's your problem, asshole? So I don't know.
Just imagine if they had accidentally put an S on the end of Moby's dick. Well, you know, Pieface, if you haven't read Moby Dick, it's very homoerotic. Absolutely. Oh, look at that baby. So you might enjoy reading it, Pieface. And the way Queequeg is described, so hot. The guy is in bed with him. They have to share a hotel because they're, they don't have a lot of money. And, they're sailors or whatever, so they're on leave. And Queequeg goes to sleep, and this guy is just, the author is sitting there describing his body, and you just feel him like all of this desire. I mean, like Moby Dick, there's a lot going on in that. But anyways, like Moby Dick, there's like I said, huge parts that you could just take out and you still have a great book.
See, for this book, I think I read somewhere and I couldn't find where I read it, that hundreds and hundreds of pages were edited out of this. And some of the stuff that's still in there, I'm like the whole Wardine be cry. Remember that part?
Which one?
Wardine be cry. It's like written in Ebonics or something. It's kind of a short section.
I don't remember that part.
Okay. It's just kind of like it barely mentions a very minor character that comes in later, but doesn't really have anything to do with the story. It just seems more like a writing exercise and kind of racist, actually. Like, I'm not that sensitive to that, but it reminded me of American Fiction, the movie.
Oh, okay.
Like that kind of like hyper black type dialect, and that's section I would have
thought. 90s, right? Did he write this in the 1990s?
Yeah.
It was different then,
right?
Before this, the critical, like everybody puts down Mark Twain for writing, trying to write in the character's voice. You know what I mean? Like, who's the black character that he's trying to save him from slavery? I can't remember. Jim. And he writes Jim's.
I thought you were trying to trick me into saying the whole name, get me canceled.
I don't remember his whole name. It's just Jim, right? Huckleberry.
No. There's another word in front of it.
Oh, okay. Oh no. No, I'm not gonna say that. But anyways, there's a section in this book that I just read, and it's from the point of view of someone who's a huge drug addict on heroin, right? And they actually write it Niger.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of writing it out, but exactly what he's writing, and he capitalizes it for some reason.
Yeah.
And he's constantly saying the word fag, and so I'm just like, but it's his point of view. He's a drug addict,
right?
And
right.
Like he's not only is on drugs, he's ignorant, and he's like living the lifestyle where there's gangs, and he's got to stay away from these gangs, and so I get it. I get why it's there. I mean, it seems authentic to the character, right?
Yeah. I guess the feeling of this book, and I hope some people get mad when it's done, because I feel like like certain kinds of jazz, it's like they're playing the musicians are playing like around the melody, not the melody itself. I feel that's how I feel about this book. Like there's a story, kind of, but things are just going on around the story, and that's what he's writing about. And I think people get frustrated that the plot really isn't that important to what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I
I mean,
guess there's a lot of character building in this. Oh, I want
yeah,
to talk about the two characters on the mountain.
yeah.
But I came across that, and it's actually really, really good. I don't understand. Oh, first off, I found that the part about basically it's a cassette tape or a DVD. They have a, like, he was looking into the future of how we would do entertainment. So I'm just going to call it a VHS tape. And so this Saudi doctor, assistant doctor or something, he puts in a tape that his wife had, and he has some kind of experience, and I think it kills him. Like he
Mhm.
watches it over and over until he dies. And then everybody who comes, it's like The Ring almost. Everybody who comes in to find out what happens, they start staring at the screen and it happens to them. And then we get to these, and I thought those characters were intriguing, by the way, but then they get killed right off, right? And so then we go to this character on top of a Tucson, I think, mountain. And this
Mhm.
description is beautiful. Like the sun is going down and the shadows are going across the
Yeah.
desert. Do you remember that? And he's
Yeah.
in a wheelchair and he's an assassin. And they have all of these like wheelchair assassin clubs. And I'm just thinking, this is so ridiculous. And then another agent comes stumbling down the mountain. It's hilarious. And he's in full drag, and he's not a drag queen, but they forced him to, dress up like that. And he's like this big, like burly, fat guy, and he's in this full drag, and it looks horrible. And his makeup is all running. He ripped his like lingerie on on the brambles and everything trying to get there. And he even asked him, like, the guy's in a wheelchair. He's like, "How the hell did you get here?" And then they go into these like it's section after section, right? It doesn't stop at one section, and they have like philosophical debates up there, and it's just like it's all kinds of weird and crazy, and I was just having a good time. And just the fact that he put that other guy in like drag with his high heels, he couldn't walk well, his feet I think were coming over the sides of the shoes, and the way he described him, like trying to fix his makeup and doing. And the thing is, we're getting it from the wheelchair guy's point of view, and the comments that he makes about the guy in drag, it's just hilarious. So
And,
I
and,
loved that scene.
and there's some comment in there about how they always make him dress up
A
in
different
in
way.
an outlandish outfit that doesn't even look real. Like like his last assignment, he had to be in blackface.
Yes. But and he's like, "You were this and this," and he was like, "I was actually Jamaican." He like
Right, right.
defended it. So like, audience out there, I'm telling you, there are some really funny things in this book. And so the whole point is, I'm trying to think, like, what are the connections here? Why is there a league of wheelchair assassins, and they're trying to hunt down like who sent this package to these people and like stop the spread of it? And then what does that have to do with the Incandenza family? And I don't know, it's just pretty funny.
So yeah, the tape. I guess whenever anyone tries to describe what the plot of the book is, they bring up the tape because that's kind of the most sexy sci-fi type element to it. There's this tape that if you watch it, it's so entertaining you're just going to watch it until you drop dead. You don't want to eat or do anything else. And so various factions are trying to get a hold of this tape to use it as a weapon. Yeah, the wheelchair assassins are Quebec separatists. Did you get to the? So there's a footnote in that section that then refers you to a much later footnote. I don't know if you
I
read
didn't
that one.
read that other one because it was so long, and I
Yeah,
figured
it's very
I'll
long.
just read it when I get to that part. But yeah, it seemed to go through everything, and I was like, well, I think it's too early for me to read that. But I probably would have learned more about them had I read it.
Yeah, you would. I won't tell you what's in it, but what I wanted to bring up that footnote because I thought it was just another example of Wallace's creativity. Rather than have a long footnote telling you the history of this group and and all the different things that they do in their traditions and everything. It's presented as one of the students of the tennis academy trying to write his term paper the day before it's due, and he's searching for an article to plagiarize, and he comes across this article about this group. The article is horribly written, and it's just him reading this article and trying to figure out what the fuck this guy's talking about, while also trying to copy it. So there's a story that you're getting while you're getting the exposition. I just thought it was really creative and fun, but it is very long.
Yeah, definitely a lot of really interesting things. I'm wondering if I kind of wanted to go through this and point out some interesting parts, but I wasn't able to do that. Some standout parts for me was the young girl in the on Suicide Watch.
Yeah.
I think that was so brilliantly written. Like you really got a sense of what she was going through because she wasn't the typical suicide, and they make a point to like explain all of that and how she was different. And he describes how she looks, how she's dressed, how she's feeling, the way she moves, the interaction with the doctor, and how she feels about that. I just thought it was brilliantly written, and I would recommend that just one little chapter for anybody who wants to see what kind of writer this guy is, because he does such a great job. The beginning of the book, the first scene, still I'm kind of boggled. Like the kid is sitting there in an interview, I guess for college. I don't know, but is he like whacked out on drugs? Because he doesn't seem like that way normally. Maybe that happens later in the book. You don't have to explain it to me. But he's sitting there in this interview, and there's like a circle of people talking all around him, and they keep saying, "Let's hear him speak." And like the guy who's there with him is like, "That's not a good idea. That's not a good idea." But it's an interview, and when he finally speaks, like we get two versions of it. We get what the kid is thinking, but we get what actually comes out of his mouth, and it's so hilarious. That scene is a great way to open this book because it just leaves you thinking, what the f? What do you think about that scene as an
That
opener?
scene, the first time I read the book, almost made me quit because I was like, I don't understand what is going on. I wasn't used to his language yet, to David Foster Wallace's language or writing style, and I didn't understand what was going on. And okay, this is a minor spoiler, very minor.
Okay.
That scene takes place in the Year of Glad. The Year of Glad is the year after the Year of the Depend undergarment, which is where most of our action takes place. So that takes place after what we're reading now.
Yeah.
And once you've read the whole book,
you understand
that seems awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome when I read it.
Okay.
Because I loved, like, this kid is just sitting there so passive, and everything is happening around him. And you know something's really wrong because you're getting all these clues. And and I think it's his uncle, he keeps trying to like get them away from actually talking to the kid in the interview, and he keeps like giving them all this like, oh, he's great at this and he's done this and he did this. And then they actually ask him to leave because he won't shut up, because he knows what's coming.
Yep. Yep.
Oh gosh. And then when he actually starts talking, it's so hilarious because like everything that comes out of his mouth is like he's like a gibbering idiot. And they're all like, what the hell? I just thought it was such a funny scene. I thought it was a brilliant way to open the book because you're in for like this weird like ride, like, and yeah, you don't know what's going on. I don't know why he's acting that way, because in the next scene he's perfectly coherent the next time we meet him. And so I'm wondering, like, was he on drugs that day? Like, did he take something? Like, I don't understand why he couldn't produce language. So I was thinking at the onset that he was autistic and they were like protecting him, and that he had spells where he wouldn't be able to, because he was like jerking and he couldn't speak, and I thought because of his nerves. And so I really did not understand why he was acting that way. But I guess that's not the case. But as an introduction to him, I thought he was just like this highly functioning autistic, kind of like Rain Man. But anyways, that's what I thought. But I'm wrong. Let's see.
Yeah, a lot.
You could
Just
read back.
bringing up about the. I wrote down her name. I think Kate Gompert, the girl on Suicide Watch. His his description of depression and how it feels. Obviously, he struggled with depression and eventually led him to his death.
Did he commit suicide?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Um,
That's important
but
to know.
so there's a lot. Yeah, a lot of him is in this book. I mean, he was a junior tennis player and was played at a high level. So there's that connection with the tennis academy. His addictions to
Now you're
he
making this
kind
book
of
really
denied it.
sad.
Yeah, he kind of denied. I think at the time this came out, he denied he was in AA or anything, but he had an alcohol problem and had a similar reaction to marijuana that he describes in the book, which isn't typical. Like the Ken, the character who we spend pages and pages of him sitting in his chair waiting for the girl to bring his pot.
Oh yeah, that's another really, really well written scene, especially the bug.
Yeah,
Just watching a bug poke in and out, and I thought it was a fascinating scene. And the phone, waiting at the phone. I remember that feeling when we had actual phones and you couldn't leave them, right?
and
So
you want to check to see if the phone is working, but if you pick it up and they call, then it would.
you're screwed. And and you're adding drugs into the mix of all this, right? Or I'm not sure if it was drugs or alcohol, but he definitely had an addled brain, and he was just sitting there waiting, and he's describing like the women that he gets to, that he has intercourse with, and how he treats them, and you're just, this character is really, really icky, but
And
it's
just
really
I don't know if you'll be able to see on camera, but I just wanted to illustrate like you can't really see with the glare. Oh, there you go. Like that's the middle of a paragraph. It's all one page, and it continues
I'm
for
telling you, this is like,
2, 3, 4. So it's like
look
you're
at this
in.
text that you have to read.
Yeah, yeah. You're in the head of this obsessive guy waiting for the phone to ring to get the pot that he says he doesn't want, but he does, and you're just in his head as his thoughts spin out on each other. And there's one part where he's planning to hole up and just smoke a bunch of dope all weekend, and so he's stocked up on snacks and he's got a bunch of videotapes to watch, and then he starts looking at the videotapes just to take his mind off it, but then he's worried that like there's a better one, so he keeps switching the tapes out. And he never actually watches anything, and I just that kind of
Obsessive.
I think we can all identify with being obsessed with something like that, or being caught in a thought loop, and that I think the writing really helps illustrate that, because you can't get out of it either. You're in a 6-page paragraph where this guy's just saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I thought that was another real standout section. So Pieface said, I used to try and explain depression to my dad. Impossible. So Pieface, what I would say is it's really difficult sometimes for us to explain things, but if we can get a good writer like this who can really explain it well, I mean, this is the kind of thing that you could read and you can start to have a better appreciation, because this girl has no reason. It's kind of existential. It's just the way she feels.
Yeah.
And she talks about her smell, that is something that she just can't get rid of no matter how many times she showers. And he creates this really like detailed portrait of the way this girl thinks and feels. And it's very eye-opening, right? Because if you don't struggle with depression, you're just kind of like, why don't you just snap out of it? But
Yeah.
it's not like that. And yeah, so Pieface, that's kind of what I would suggest. Sometimes poets and writers can express things that we just can't. So Steve asked if we were teachers, and I'm a teacher, and Scott isn't.
I have an English major.
Awesome. So that
But no,
counts.
I'm not a teacher.
Yeah, it's tough to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. It isn't just feeling blue. Like, yeah, so you just wrote what I said, right? Because it's sometimes difficult to get into someone else's mindset, and we tend to jump to the conclusion of how we experience things versus how someone else, and then we will just like, hey, get over it or snap out of it or something. And yeah, it's just really the wrong approach to take.
Yeah, a lot of well-meaning people would think they're giving you good advice, like, well, just go do something fun. I mean, you like movies, right? Go to a movie. It's like, well, that you don't get it. Like, when you
Yeah,
feel that way, nothing's fun. It doesn't matter. Like,
yeah, it's true. So Steve was a teacher for 10 years and high school band 22. That's pretty impressive. Morton, and I'm back preparing for travel day tomorrow, so my head is a little detached. Oh, travel day. So good luck with your travel, Morton. I've got a couple of your videos to catch up on. Um, I will. While I'm reading the comments, think of if there's another section that we could discuss.
okay,
This does sound for me the best book I've heard you talk about, but I don't usually listen too well. Well, actually, Pieface, at some point, I would like to do a show with you. I think that would be fun. Um, you're
I'm not doing that one.
no, I don't know. I think you two like each other, but you're just doing it. You you've got such this amazing collection of music. It's like goes from floor to ceiling. And I would like you to pick like your 10 favorites and talk about why or something like that. And I would pick like 10 that I think are great because of the art or something. I don't know. We could come up with something. But I think that would be a fun show. Even if Scott doesn't want to watch it. Ah! Hello. And then Pivey says, "Oh dear, no way." He's like, "I'm not doing that." Okay, well, Pivey then screw you because I went out on a limb and then you're just making me look like a jerk. All right. I guess that's your specialty. Thanks, David. I was made aware of an entry into my contest. Thank you, Mark. Okay.
Oh,
And
and Mark
then
left.
Mark left. But I think he came back, or was that you, Morton? All right, we are at 56 minutes, and I think an hour is a good place to stop. So if we can think of one more section, I wish I would have made notes. But
I like the section. I think you got there where it's after tennis practice where they're all bitching in the shower room about how
yeah,
tired they are. Then they go to the little buddies meetings where all the senior players have they're assigned like 10 to 12-year-old kids to kind of
yeah,
mentor, and they have meetings, and it just kind of jumps between their meetings, and so you get to see like how each player interacts with the little kids. But Hal's I think is the most important one, and the one we're supposed to really be paying attention to, where he's explaining to the little kids that them being run down like this and having finals week while they have to prepare for this tournament, it's all on purpose. They're kind of trying to break them down, and then the bitching in the shower room is what unites them and helps them to get through it. I'm having a hard time explaining it well, but
okay.
I
So
thought the philosophy of the academy that Hal had figured out and was telling the little kids was pretty interesting.
yeah, I do remember that scene because it went from the locker to, I thought it was a restaurant, but maybe it was like a little buddies meeting or like you said. So that's the scene where I got that fix versus growth mindset, because
Mm-hmm.
they go through there's a lot of philosophizing in that, and in the shower room where they're sitting around and they really are trying to understand, why does the academy do this to us? You don't know if it's real or if it's something that they're just bitching about, but it's basically this routine torture of children, because it's like they want to be the best, and so they have to like grind them every day, and they're just sitting there complaining about how tired they are, but they have to keep doing it if they want to be the best, and the academy needs the best, right? And so they're going to keep like, grinding these kids day after day to produce one or two really, really good like athletes.
Right,
And they know that all of them won't be successful, but they also hold in their heart the idea that I could be that one,
right,
right? And that
right.
just keeps them going and going. And then, yeah, when they start talking about the 10 or 12 year olds that they know they're going to have to torture and grind, and then I thought it was funny because Hal dislikes intensely the one that he got, and he actually trades his for another one, and it's like all this like behind the scenes kind of stuff. It's really pretty funny and well done. Steve Driscoll says, "Please show me the book." There it is, Infinite. Sorry, I can't. There we go, Infinite Jest, and it's by David Foster Wallace. All right, well, that is the hour mark. Do you want to try to get together and do this around the 500 page mark, like halfway,
Sure.
or
You
or
can.
or it's up to you, like, or because I think that would take me a couple weeks to get to
Yeah.
the 500 page mark, and then after that we could meet for the end. After
Sounds
the
good.
other 500 pages, something
Yeah.
like that. So if anybody's down for that, we'll try to meet in a couple weeks. We'll set it up between the two of us. Don't go away after I close the feed. We can talk for a little bit.
Okay.
But we'll come up with a date, and we'll let everybody know. In the meantime, maybe a few of you would like to pick up the book, and even though we kind of like spoiled things, it's not really, because it's very random when you start reading it. Like, you don't know what's going on, and it's just a delight to come across all these weird characters. And if you go into this book with that mindset where you're just kind of like reading like interconnected short stories initially until you can figure out how they're connected, you'll really enjoy the book. So
Yeah, I would warn, don't go into this thinking there's a plot and we're going to get introduce the plot, and then the next chapter it's going to get further and further and further. It's not like that at all. It's like you said, it's more connections. There's not really a traditional plot.
yeah.
So just kind of have an open mind if you start it.
And I think something that really helped me is that people were saying how difficult this book was and how they would all put it down. And for me, knowing that it was, I think, a difficult text, let me think, well, no, I can do this. I can get through it. But if I had picked this up randomly on my own, I probably would have done the same thing as everybody else. Like, what the hell? This is not making any sense, and put it down. But I'm glad that I like pushed through it. And I think you said you've got to get through the first 100 pages. And someone else said you've got to get through the first 200 pages.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, okay. But, I'm well on my way at 140. So I think I made it over the hump, I guess.
I think so. I think you're in.
Oh, somebody wants a sexy page flip. Here you go.
Oh, I thought they wanted me to go get a porno mag and show that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure the swingle would be better, but we get banned. Sounds like there's too much going on to spoil it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to spoil.
So I want to thank everybody, because I really was unprepared for this, and I really just relied on my rambling skills to get through this hour. And I want to thank Scott for jumping on with me and doing this and rereading the book, because this is like a huge, undertaking, especially to do again, right? And you're spending all this time on the book. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thank you, everybody, for, if you were on the stream, for watching, and then if you're watching this in reruns, thank you. I love all comments, so I check periodically to see if there are any comments there.
Simon said you flipped those pages too fast. It wasn't sexy enough.
Oh, wait. There you go. Look at all
that.
that.
Yeah. Oh, slower. Yeah, there we go.
You should have seen my makeup yesterday, Simon. It would have been better. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.